7 p.m. in Melbourne, Australia. Sun's just about to go down and it's a beautiful, cool summer's day. A cool Aquarius summer day in the land of Oz. Great to be with you again for another week and another show. You have me for the next 2 hours, and I'm going to discuss today some of the words getting around in our society, especially in legalese, that have been deliberately designed to lower the vibration of the unsuspecting, and to bring people into their ship. You see, in legalese, some of the words are designed to pull your ship off the land into the jurisdiction of water. You see, on the ship. And I'm going to discuss the word jurisdiction. Let's get into that word. And let's see how jurisdiction comes from two words. Juris, to swear, and diction is to speak. It's an oath. So every public servant has an oath, a jurisdiction. What is that oath? What does it encompass? Is it legal? Is it lawful? How can they be so sure that they can go around implementing the statutes and acts that they are so eager to promote and secure and enforce? How can they be so sure that the acts are worthy of their oaths to protect the free, to protect? They swear to protect. You see, that's their jurisdiction. They have no jurisdiction other than that. So people, these are words, these are just some of the words, these are just some of the concepts. I also want to go into the area of the jurisdiction. You see, their jurisdiction is on the water, not on the land. But they've taken us off the land, and I'll explain how they've done that. And more recently, they've taken us off the land into the air. You see, since 9/11, we have such things as air marshals, and there are 4,000 federal air marshals in the United States. 4,000, and these guys are on hundreds of flights, armed to the teeth. They board aeroplanes and jets, passenger jets, with hundreds of other passengers, armed, fully armed, trained to apprehend terrorists, and trained in terrorism. Air marshals? Did I just say air marshals? Alrighty, well, I did. So they've got the land covered because they've covered it with water, and that's maritime. Maritime? Did I say maritime? Does maritime begin with M-A-R by any chance? The same as marshal? M-A-R. Marshal is even more blatant. It's M-A-R-S. Yeah, with that thought in mind, let's come back after the break to the subject of Mars, shall we? And welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci for the next best part of 2 hours, and discussing some of the words that have entangled society for the last couple of thousand years. Very magical words. You see, the magic of words has been developed over the last couple of thousand years because the art of saying one's vow and telling the truth disappeared. There was a time when people seemed to speak less of truth for some reason, and therefore people then put their voice on paper and created invoices, you see. Simply because the writing became a means of changing the nature of the vow and the contract and the pact. You see, by using subvertive type words, um, people were able to write contracts that were able to ensnare unsuspecting, less educated types, you see. So this is where we get legalese, and English for legalese. The subject of jurisdiction. I was speaking about jurisdiction, and juris means to swear. You see, these public officers are bound to swear, are bound by their oaths that they have sworn to protect for the Queen, and yet they seem to be overstepping their oaths. You see, this is jumping out of jurisdiction. And they can only get jurisdiction, of course, or in other words, you can be swept into their oath, so to speak, their area that they can, you know, administer their ship's affairs. They can do that if you kindly consent to showing them that you are on and that you are an escapee from the war, because you're actually going to provide them with your incrimination by showing some form of ID. Oh yes, your officer, here's my ID, there's my driver's license. Oh, good. So you are on the run, and you do have stolen property on your person. Excellent. Here's $150 for that infringement. So jurisdiction has been granted. You see, the officer was there in the first place to protect you, but you didn't want that, so you gave them ID, showed them that you're a thief, and that you're on the run, and that you're using fraudulent property. It doesn't belong to you. It's a name that was sold by your parents at birth. You have no right of use to it. Well, you don't have any full rights, put it that way. You can argue that as the executor of that account and everything, etc. But the fact is, they own the name. And they set up the system in fraud and with intent to commit fraud. Big difference. Intent can give you either a manslaughter or a murder sentence, you see. Intent is the key to the crime, you see. Now, the interesting thing about these types, these pirate types, is that they've taken their ships into the air, you see. Since Homeland Security and the Patriot Act of 9/11, they've taken to the air, these types, and they've been wanting to do this ever since aviation began. I mean, the TSA, that was planned years ago. It's no use complaining now. I mean, they saw that, so they had to get control of those too. So they have airships now, you see, patrolling the skies, and guess who's on those airships, civilian and government? Yeah, US air marshals, 4,000 of them, in fact. Hundreds of trips a day, hundreds of air flights a day, domestic and overseas, have these undercover US marshals, air marshals. So they've got the water and the air. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, really, when they told you all along that they were going to do it, and we just thought, oh, yeah? Yeah, sure, you're going to do it. Why would you want to? Why would they want to? For control. They love it. These are unconscious animals we're talking about. You see, the elite are not the aristocratic. They are the economically elite. The aristocratic, well, the kingdom. They are the sons of the sun, and I'll get into that in the second hour, because I want to share a little bit of metaphysics, which will help to understand what is exactly going on and how they steal our sovereignty from us at birth, and our identity, and use it to make millions and millions and millions, billions and trillions of dollars. And not only are they stealing from us, they are actually harvesting all of our energy and all of our strength and input and production by this system. You see, we are slaves on the citizenship. Now, when I say we, that excludes me. And I'm not pointing at you, the listener, John Doe. It's as a planet, because we've really messed up with this big time, where we've allowed renegade elite types to control the world. You see, this is the time of the Gentile times in the scriptures. Yeah, the times of the Gentiles. And when the times of the Gentiles shall end, then shall return the kingdom of priests, the children of Israel, that will inherit God's kingdom and will rule as kings and priests for 1,000 years. This is all symbolic, poetic language about how the cycle works. This is not theocratic rubbish that I'm talking. I'm not talking any of the monotheistic crap that the churches are talking about. I'm talking about what the prophecies really mean. They're based on cycles, you see. And when the Gentiles rule in the Iron Age, where we lose massive amounts of consciousness and we lose our concept of divinity, and we realize and we forget our divine, we take on a name and a number to boot, social security number. And when they call that number out, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, Mr. Bonacci, are you present? Yes, sir, present. Yeah, that is the biggest crime of them all. And with that in mind, let's go to a break. Welcome back, and we're on the subject of jurisdiction. Interesting word, juris, to swear, to make an oath with your mouth, with your heart, with your mind. That's what public servants do. So they have a jurisdiction. And as I've just explained before the break, that jurisdiction is not on the land. It's in the waters. And how they do this is by raising the level of the water up and all of the land, that is. That's why they have the obelisks all over the place with the benchmark at 2 feet. That little brass metal measurement there that they have on the obelisks, that's what that's for. That's the landmark. That's the landmark. You see the watermark, the benchmark. So that's why you have a landing at the front of your house, because they're going to come over onto your ship, because you're in the citizenship. You see, this is how they work. They we are always in dishonor. In this system, we are always in dishonor, because we have on our person property which belongs to the state. And there's the intent. And it's as simple as that. That's what the birth certificate stands for. They can come to take your children, steal your house, plant some drugs in your house and take you to prison for as long as they like, under the Patriot Act, etc., because you're slaves on the plantation by choice. And by having sold the name to the government, to the state, to the corporations, and therefore a shareholder in everything that the corporation stands for. So, people, if you're proud of what your corporation that is clearly labelled on the certificate that you hold, which you call the birth certificate. If you're happy with that corporation, let's take, for example, the second biggest corporation in the world, the Corporation of the United States, in 1971, 21st of February in DC, the crime capital of the world, with the City of London, in London, and the Vatican, these three city-states. Woohoo! You got yourself a trinity of devils there. Oh, yeah. These boys, they are real scaries. These corporations are very, very scary. Oil spills, they deal in raping the earth, pillaging her, destroying the earth in any possible way that you can fathom, that you can comprehend. Chemtrails, they've got junk out in space. They've covered the water. The waters are polluted. The air is polluted. Chemtrails and fluoride in the water. It's all, mate. These guys, they are absolute pirates, pirates of the high seas. And so, returning the name, lose the name, win the game, deflates their little business by a few billions every time one person does it. I've done it. My son has done it. And quite a few people in Australia have done it and are doing it. And many people around the planet are doing it now, serving in their birth certificates, their death certificates, and all the benefits that go with it. Yeah, lots of benefits. Jail time, FEMA, if they ever get around to it, which they probably won't, because, well, they are the powers that were, really. Only they don't know it. They will. They'll know it one day. Bit like the Black Knight in the Holy Grail of Monty Python. Remember that guard who said, "None shall pass," and King Arthur's standing there and he goes, "What?" And John Cleese inside the armour of the Black Knight shall pass, and there's this little footbridge that he's protecting. And this knight is protecting this little bridge, you see. And before you know it, they get into a fight, and King Arthur severs his limbs. He detaches every limb of his body off him, and he is the knight on the ground, with limbless, still hurling abuses at this coward King Arthur, who is trotting off into the twilight over the footbridge. And here is this guy saying, "Come back, I'll bite you, you yellow-livered," etc., etc., etc. Well, that's what we've got. Well, that's the powers that be, people. Don't ever think that this monster will revive from its death blows. Babylon the Great will fall, and we help it by awakening and exposing, etc. Consciousness exposure, consciousness exposure. That's the only way, because these people fear the light. I'll get into in the next hour. But let's go back to the waterways that these pirates are controlling, shall we? Well, guess what? They're in the air now, and they've been trying to do that for, well, 100 years since the Wright brothers. They've finally achieved it. Takes a long time to get their goals sometimes, but they've got a lot of intent and will. Their agenda has been going for at least 3,000 years, I'd say. Probably, one could argue, 5,000 years for the whole of the dark period of Amun, which has beclouded and shadowed the earth for 5,000 years, the Copper and the Iron Age, commonly known as. Of course, you won't get any of this in church. "Oh, we've only been around for 6,000 years. That's what God said, and he created the earth in 6 literal days." Yes, yes, yes. You see, because of course Rome has controlled the institutions of education for 2,000 years, etc., she's not going to come out and allow people to accept and know the truth in mass. Rome runs on poisoning the airways. Propaganda, it's called. In fact, that's what PR is, you know. Public relations comes from propaganda. Yeah, Edward Bernays. You might want to study that type. He's the one that called cigarettes Liberty Sticks and stuck them in the lips of pretty models that he paid heftily to have poncing around in New York and waving these Liberty Sticks so that he could get, because of course all the big boys, the big tobacco companies wanted to sell more cigarettes. So they approached Mays, you see, and he's famous for having invented public relations, but it's propaganda. It's been around the Vatican. They do it the best. No one beats or trumps the Vatican. And these guys have sold the biggest story to mankind, and they've swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. And that is the third-party debt collecting scam of the historical Jesus story. You see, that's the big one. And they've caught many a fish with that one in the age of Pisces. Oh, yeah. We'll get back to that after the break, shall we? Yeah, and welcome back. You're with Santos Bonacci for the next hour and a half. And the lines are open if you care to call in. 512-904-8014. So I'll do that again. 512-904-8014. So please call in, and any thoughts on today's subject and any insight, I'll be happy to hear from you and discuss these. Back to this historical God / man / redeemer / savior that Rome invented. Because you see, if you've seen any of my presentation videos on YouTube, Mr. Astrotheology YouTube handle, Mr. Astrotheology, or if you've seen them already, you will know that I show there that the Jesus story is actually of a much older antiquity than this 2,000-year upstart fiction that the Romans created for third-party debt collecting mechanisms, schemes, scams, if you like. They created this God-man savior who pretty much debunked Osiris, who had 12 disciples, Mithras, who had 12 disciples, Hercules, who had his 12, Bacchus, Dionysius, Sabazius, Buddha, Krishna, Virukosha, comes along 2,000 years ago, debunks all of these older, much older Christ / saviors, who are referring directly to the sun with the 12 signs of the zodiac. And the Romans come along and historicized this mythology. They did a great job. They absolutely did a work of art. In fact, half of the world believes it to this day. This is how stupid mankind is. Of unconscious, dumb animals, and Rome knows it. The elites of Rome have known it for a long time. The herd, ba, 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 the moo, moo, moo. They just go along, and of course they get educated in school and Catholic schools and universities, etc., Cambridge and all these other bullshit places where they teach the same crap about the false history of this third-party debt collector. Yeah, third-party debt collector, all right. You can't get saved unless he's in your life. You can't pay taxes unless he says give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. It's a third-party debt collecting scam. And it's been debunked. So the elites have got nowhere to run. They've been pumping millions of gazillions of dollars into Christendom and stolen the keys of understanding to how to understand the mythologies about the sun and the 12 signs of the zodiac. Stolen our empowerment, which is our true science of this earth, the science of the cycles of nature, and taught us a fictional historical version which is third party, outside of ourselves, outside of our own centers, and anyone who teaches that there is salvation anywhere outside of inside is a liar and a thief and a wolf in sheep's coverings. And that's in fact what the churches are teaching. Celsus exposed these criminals, the early corporate churches, in his book 1850 years ago. He was there, right there. The Christian church was being invented by the Romans, and this is what he had to say. Now, the Christians are just as proud as the Jews. By the way, I'm reading from page 70 of the book Celsus on the True Doctrine. Now, the Christians are just as proud as the Jews. They profess to seek converts. They thrive on martyrdom. I rather suspect that if all men desired to become Christians, the cult would immediately shut the door to converts. At the start of their movement, they were very few in number and unified in purpose. Since that time, they have spread all around and now number in the thousands. It is not surprising, therefore, that there are divisions among them, factions of all sorts, each wanting to have its own territory. It is not surprising that as these divisions have become so numerous, the various parties have taken to condemning each other. Oh yeah, the Jehovah's Witnesses will tell you how, the Mormons will tell you how wrong the Seventh-day Adventists are. And the Seventh-day Adventists, they're sure going to tell you that the Pentecostals are working the works of the devil, etc., etc. I mean, he called them out 1850 years ago, people. I'm not saying anything new. And I'm surrounded by books in my office, in my room here. I'm surrounded by books, and each of them are all have evidence that will shut down the fictional church system forever, and it's going to be shut down very, very soon. Rejoice. It's just around the corner, people. Just around the corner. Fictions cannot live forever. So continuing on, he says, so that today they have only one thing, if that, in common, the name Christian, in parentheses, in quotation marks. In common, the name Christian. But despite their clinging proudly to their name, in most other respects they are at odds. I suppose, however, that it is more amazing that there are any points of agreement at all. Given the fact their belief rests on no solid foundation, they are agreed, for instance, that outsiders are not to be trusted, and that they themselves must remain perpetual apostates from the approved religions. He goes on to talk about them being franchises. Yeah, he uses the word franchise. I'm going to have to find where he says that, but in another place he talks about, oh, here it is. The Christians ignore the good offices of the Dioscuri of Heracles, this is page 71, Asclepius, and of Dionysius, and say that these men are not gods because they were humans in the first place. Yet belief in the phantom god who appeared only to members of this little club. So there you go. On page 70 you have him calling them factions and having their own territory and various parties. You see, the various parties have taken to condemning each other. Man, this guy could have been writing today in 2012. He was writing in the year 150. Common Era. That's 1850 years ago. They've been called out way back then. Marcion called them out even 100 years prior to, around the time of Celsus, I should say. Or earlier, rather. Because Celsus speaks about Marcion. Oh, yeah. He speaks about Marcion. Marcion was condemning them. Valentinus was condemning. Basilides condemned them because he was a Valentinus, and so was Marcion. And they were speaking about the true Christ, the Christ within, that Paul spoke about. Now, why am I talking about all this stuff? Well, because people, they've been called out. They are corporations, they're franchises, clubs. Christianity is behind the governments. The churches are behind the governments. They work hand in hand. The Vatican is a Christian church. It's the biggest corporation in the world. Mark my words, these corporations are Christmas. The money goes back to Rome, people. We're citizens of Rome. The birth certificate is a Roman idea, which goes back to Unum Sanctum of 1302, the papal bull by Pope Boniface VIII. And also in 1448 with Attorney Regis or Pontifex Maximus. These go way back, man. They own the world. It's theirs. They are masters of the slave ship. Catch you in a few minutes. Yeah, we do. A revolution. Welcome back, and just reading out of a very, very, very old document. Reading from Celsus, the great Roman philosopher who wrote a treatise against, or a discourse against, the Christians, because he saw them coming. And so did Porphyry. 100 years later, all his books were burned. All of Basilides' books were burned. He was prior to Celsus. Porphyry's books were burned against the Christians. I have that book in my hands also. And then, of course, Julian the Emperor, 100 years after Porphyry, brought the Roman world back to the original true religion. But Constantine, his uncle, 40 years prior, destroyed the world by putting Christianity on the throne in Rome, you see. But it was 300 years in the making. Rome was working on this fictional church for 300 years. Finally, Constantine, who finally gathered all his bishops in a council called the Council of Nicaea in 325. His main bishop, Eusebius, was his right-hand man. He was a criminal who forged history for Rome. Well, he may not have been directly, but the people who doctored his books may have been. I don't know. But what comes and results from Eusebius's work is one of the biggest crimes perpetrated against humanity. But prior to him, the Julians and the Flavians had done their bit in doctoring the Gospels and turning them into historical documents for the purposes of enslavement of the masses. This is what Celsus goes on to say on page 79. As to the squabbles of the Jews and the Christians, I can only say that these sects remind me of a cluster of bats or ants escaping a bunch of frogs holding council in a swamp, or a clutch of worms assembling in the muck, all of them disagreeing over who is the worst sinner. And what else does he go on to say? Well, a lot more. Thus is the extent of their evil and their ignorance. Christians, it is needless to say, utterly detest each other. They slander each other constantly with the vilest forms of abuse and cannot come to any sort of agreement in their teaching. Each sect brands its own, fills the head of its own with deceitful nonsense, and makes perfect little pigs out of those who it wins over to its side. Oh, and that's page, taking notes, page 91 of the same book. And on page 90, there he is, he's talking about Marcion. Marcion and his disciple Apelles, for example, think that the Creator is an inferior God. Yeah, because he was a Gnostic Christian. And he taught that the inferior God, the Son, which we're going to get to in a minute, by the way. I promise that, because this is what they've done in the jurisfiction. You see, since the days of Rome and philosophers like Celsus, who were preaching against this fiction that was coming, this onslaught of Christian corporations that will rule the world with an iron rod and take continents and lands of the sea for her empire, such as North America, South America, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, and many, many, many islands in the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean, and countries in Africa and Asia, all over the world. Christian corporate churches dominating cultures, indigenous religions, burning books, and taking over the land, and squatting on the land with their corporations doing business. And yet the lands still are owned by the indigenous people. So I'm just going back to the roots, and please don't think that Celsus was some kind of, mad raving idiot, and he had his opinions of the Christians, and, that was 1850 years ago. Things have changed. Wise men now, they see that Christianity and churches is absolutely good and enlightening for the community, and really, really good for, the human consciousness, and they're really, really helping mankind to advance spiritually. Yeah, I wonder whether Thomas Paine was responsible for the Great Revolution and the win of the Hermetic Republic of the United States of America. He was the man, I believe, who wrote the book, was it Common Sense, that got 500,000 copies printed and published, and all of America opened their eyes to the truth about how the system works, and they remembered who they were, and they fought for George Washington rather than George III, and they won and set up a republic, one of the finest. Wonder what Thomas Paine said about the Christians, and whether he agrees with Celsus. Because Celsus has got to be a mad raving nut, doesn't he, to have said that about the Christians back then? Well, in chapter 11 of The Age of Reason of Thomas Paine, on the theology of the Christians and the true theology, what did Celsus call his book? On the True Doctrine? What does chapter 11 of The Age of Reason, what's it titled? On the theology of the Christians and the true theology? Okay, well, let's see what he has to say. Among other things, this is what he has to say about the Christian church. And of course, please remember, as I read these words, remember the words of Friedrich Nietzsche, where he said, the Christian church is an encyclopedia of ancient cults. Oh yeah, you better believe it. Thomas Paine said, as to the Christian system of faith, it appears to me as a species of atheism, a sort of religious denial of God. It professes to believe in a man rather than in a compound made up chiefly of manism, with but little deism, and is as near to atheism as twilight is to darkness. It introduces between man and its maker, and his maker, an opaque body, which it calls a redeemer, as the moon introduces her opaque self between the earth and the sun, and it produces by this means a religious or an irreligious eclipse of light. It has put the whole orbit of reason into shade. The effect of this obscurity has been that of turning everything upside down and representing it in reverse. And among the revolutions it has thus magically produced, it has made a revolution in theology. That which is now called natural philosophy, embracing the whole circle of science, of which astronomy occupies the chief place, is the study of the works of God, and of the power and wisdom of God in his works, and is of the true theology. As to the theology of its place, it is a study of human opinions and of human fancies concerning God. It is not the study of God himself in the works that he has made, but in the works of writings that man has made. And it is not among the least of the mischiefs that the Christian system has done to the world that it has abandoned the original and beautiful system of theology, like a beautiful innocent, to distress and reproach, to make room for the hag of superstition. And I can go on and on and on, ad nauseum. That's two men, great philosophical minds, revolutionary heroes, who spoke against this corporate Christian mechanism. It's evil, it's putrid, it is a system that runs on abuse, such as pedophilia, and abuse of people's spirit by calling people worms and grubs and slaves and sinners and dogs and unworthy. Third party redeemer. Forget about saving yourself. Get on your knees, scum of the earth, goy, and worship our monotheistic invention. Let's get back to that word monotheism after the break, shall we? Well, and welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci for the next hour, and I've been discussing the word jurisdiction and such words. And one of the words that I was discussing just before the break was the mon word. Gosh, mon, hey? You know, monarchies, monotheism, money, monopoly, all of that stuff. In fact, I was talking about monotheism. Yeah, monotheism is not about deism, and that's what Thomas Paine mentioned. He says the Christian system is not based on deism. It's not based on the divinity, the divine, the light, because God is light, the science, he said, not any kind of science. It's based on hocus pocus. It's based on fiction. And monotheism, you know, monarchy, money, monopoly, that's a different kind of creature, guys. You know, that one. That's a vicious, animalistic, unconscious beast. In fact, that's what Christendom is. That's what it is. It is a corporation. That the Vatican is a corporation. Corporations are what? Well, I don't know whether they're able to speak yet, or think, or breathe, or touch, or feel, or have emotions, or have godliness in them. No, I think they're pretty unconscious. Last time I checked, they were entities on paper. Fictions. Yeah, fictions rule. Fictions rule the world. Because it's a corporate takeover of the world, corporate takeover. And this is what we have allowed. Rather than having people who are conscious in government, as once was, government by the people, for the people, of the people, or in the days of republics, yeah, the Republic of Rome, the republics that were in Greece, the republics that were all over the world before the age of division and democracy and capitalism and money and monarchies. Yeah. A time of matriarchy, way, way, way before that. The Aborigines of Australia know about matriarchy. Oh, yeah, they do. But some other dude rocked up 250 years ago, you know, Captain Cook and Bligh, Captain Bligh and all of these elites, and they're still running the country. The Cook family and the Bligh family, Anna Bligh being the Premier of Queensland, the Queen's Hello, Anna Bligh being a descendant of the elite family, the Blighs, you know, the people who put the maritime flag on this country 250 years ago and said, this corporations are coming a squatting. We like this land that you black types have got, and you black types don't recognize our Jesus either, so we're going to show you what he looks like. Here's his word, the Bible, in our left hand, and in the right hand we have what we call a gun. And it sort of kind of bribes you to accept our theology and our hypocrisies and our bloodshedding and our fiction, because we rule the world. Yeah, the IMF, you know, those organizations, those little ABC alphabet agencies around the world, yeah, they'd be sort of kind of under the Christian Vatican Corporation system. You might want to check that on the Securities Stock Exchange, people. And welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network with Santos Bonacci, talking about the MON words that keep turning up. And I was also talking about the Mars word. Yeah, let's go back to that quickly. Marshals, air marshals. Well, have a look at the word marshal. It comes from two words, Mars and Hall. Hall is short for phallus. Same in front of H and a US after the double L. You get phallus. Mars, phallus. Mars is the most virile of virile of the planets. He is cardinal fire. He is hot and dry. Mars is red and fiery. Mars has to do with martial arts, has to do with martial law. It has to do with maritime, Mars, maritime, and it has to do with the Marines, you see. The US Marines on the waters and the US Air Marshals, Mars's phallus. You see, that's why marshals think they're pretty, you know, they're like, well, roosters, you know, little cocks getting around, cocky, because they are Mars's phallus. That's why they came martial implements of being Mars-like, war-like. So this is what they're doing. The air marshals, they're just getting control of their jurisdiction because they've made a claim and no one's rebutting their claim, you see. Well, they can't because they're all slaves on the land. And you know what? If you make a complaint, like at work, if you complain too many times, they sack you, don't they, right? So you make some complaints about it, they're going to slap you in jail because you're a shareholder. You're on the citizenship. This is why lose the name, win the game is the ultimate way to go, and it will be proven in time. The name is the negation of the divinity. The divinity is who you are. When a police officer asks you for your name and you turn around and tell him the truth that you are God, how's that going to go down? Could you anything less than God? How can you be a name or a number? This is taking the name of the Lord in vain. This is what it means to negate the divinity. Because a name means no me. In Latin, nomen means no men. In Spanish, nombre means no hombre, no man. It's a negation. And they want your negation before they put you on the ship and contract with you, because it's the law of contract. It's contract law. It all is. Everywhere in the universe, it's contract law. You can't do something to someone else unless if you have announced that you're going to do it. Unless they rebut it, then you can go ahead and do it. You see, Rome came along in 1302 and claimed title and property of everything on the globe. So they have title and property. That's all they have. So what's the title? Well, your title is Santo Bonacci, is it not? Mister, that's a title. Well, they've claimed it. It's theirs, in their jurisdiction, in what they've sworn to administer, which is all of the affairs of the maritime, of Mars on the waters. And how they've done that, all the Mars words, is by implementing the Mon words. Mon, money, comes from the moon. The moon is the great enslaver, you see, because she betrays us over to this planet, the Earth. Because in the occult science, you see, we come down the rings of the seven planets, the seven heavens, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. The Moon's the last one in the Tropic of Cancer. As it said, Scipio, the great general, says, this is how souls come to the Earth. They come down this ladder, Jacob's ladder of the Bible, and they come off the heaven of the moon. And the moon, the other word for moon is church, Circe or Circe, the witch that lived on the island that turned Odysseus' men into swine. Well, you see, this is what's happening. The church is turning people into swine because they're unconscious, because churches are unconscious equally as the corporations. Same thing, same stuff. Unconsciousness rules the world. They don't want you to be conscious of your Jesus Christ within, your chakra system, your spiritual Kabbalistic tree of life, your Merkaba vehicle, which is you, who you are in the spirit, your light body, because everything is a product of light. Light is the great universe. And this is what it means in the Bible when it says, and Christ became flesh, and the Word was made flesh. Yeah, the Word is the light, sound, different vibration of the same thing. Light and sound are the same thing on a different harmonic. Therefore, that's the Word. The Word creates. The sun, the Om, is creating everything that we see in the solar system, all of the effects. Light. Yeah, God is light. It's all about light. And we are children of that light, children of the sun. And anyone who doesn't understand this or know that this is not a child of the sun, but a child of another God, according to the great Neoplatonic philosophers like Porphyry and Plutarch and Proclus. They are children of another God with a different destiny, and that destiny is unknown to us. Our destiny is we are youngsters, young stardust, returning. Oh yeah, the dust shall return to dust, where it came from. All the bodies shall return to the earth in the graves, in the tombstones. But we go back, you know, as where our source is from, the spirit. So this is the reason why the name is such a negation of our divinity and is a great sin. It's a great sin. And Babylon the Great, the system who runs the system of sin, is about to fall. You see, when Babylon fell 2,600, say, years ago, when Darius and Cyrus the Great and Darius the Mede diverted the waters of the river Euphrates and conquered Babylon in one night and killed Nebuchadnezzar. Well, Nebuchadnezzar saw Belshazzar. I think it was either Belshazzar or Nabonidus who was the... No, it was Belshazzar. Belshazzar saw the writing on the wall, Mene Mene Tekel Parsin. Mene Mene Tekel Parsin means your kingdom has been weighed in the scales and you have been found wanting. And that's what has been found to be happening today, as this world and this system is being judged. The writing is on the wall. Catch you over the break. Yeah, welcome back, and you're with Santos Bonacci, and we were discussing the Mon words and the Mars words, you see, because the monarchies and the monopolies, the cabals do not work without their implements of war and control, and this is how they control their ship, you see. Their airships and their waterships. In fact, they have their cruisers. That's what they call their vehicles that approach your car and are able to stop you on the highways, you see, because these are waterways. These are the waterways that they control. So that's why their cruisers can come up to your house landing, the landing on your house, because they're on the ship. They're in their ships on the water. So now the system that has been implemented by the fascist Nazi elite, the oligarchic uh, corporate government that we have, works the same way as communism. Now, there's a great officer on the internet that talks about how America used the same techniques as the KGB, the Russians, to basically demoralize, destabilize, create crisis, and then normalize countries. And this KGB officer explains how it is. In fact, that's what the video is called, I think. And he says that governments take 15 years to demoralize a nation, and that's how long it took for America to do that. Yeah. America, he said, it was astonishing how quick they demoralized the nation. That's how long it takes for someone to a generation to be demoralized and educated. 15 years. And he said, then you destabilize, then you create crises, and then you have, well, that's what's going on now, the crisis. He says normalization is what they plan next. But of course, this is not going to happen. Now, getting back to the point about Mars, shall we? These air marshals that in disguise, on flights, on passenger liners and whatnot, domestically and internationally, these guys get paid handsomely to to stop you from, to keep you safe. Basically, what they're doing is policing the air. Now they've got cops up there, right? That's all it is. So they've got that covered. They have this game, you see, in their training. It's similar to how Jeopardy is played, according to one of the videos I've seen on YouTube, where they have these Jeopardy names, and they're just slurs to humiliate people. For instance, gay males are called pickle smokers, and African Americans are called our gang or buckwheats, and female gay people are called Helen DeGeneres, And these are all just slurs, you see. And this is how they are trained, these US Marshals. They're pigs, absolute thugs and bullies and animals. Tyrants, unconscious buffoons that are leading themselves and their countries to destruction, unbeknownst to these idiots that take these jobs, in the destruction of their own liberties and in the destruction of universal law and wisdom. They don these uniforms for good old Rome, because the Inquisition, she's a healthy little business. And they run the business of the Inquisition everywhere, Rome, these bastards. Good old Benny the Rat. Benny the Rat is going to be exposed as a pedophile soon, because that's what he is. And he's the boss of the corporation. And his other animalistic, unconscious buffoon is Barack Obama, who runs his subsidiary, the United States. And they just run the affairs of the slaves. Welcome to Maggie's farm. Welcome to the plantation. This is why they have a Bank of International Settlements. It's a settlement. It's occupied. And they give people an occupation. What's your occupation, Mr. Bonacci? With a title? Yeah, it's a slave title. It's a bond. You see, the birth certificate is a bond. It's a bond. It's a bond. You're a slave. It's a bond. And it has nothing. It is worth only something to the elites, to the herdsmen. They're the shepherds. They are the stewards of the system. They run it. They are the wolves in sheep's coverings. In our courts, they come in and they actually wear sheep wigs in court to tell you we are the frickin' wolves that Jesus spoke about in sheep's coverings, idiots, and we're stealing from you. Wake up. I really do believe that these people want us to wake up. They do, because the hints are just astounding, astounding and outstanding. I think I made one word there up, one word out of the two. The hints are just right in your face. We are committing fraud every time we use that name. This is why when they cruise up to you in their cruisers on the ship and they say, hey, stop, you're a runaway, and I want proof of that. Do you have any ID? Oh, what's this? A driver's license? Yes, sir. This is my ID that I'm showing you. Oh, great. Yes, well, I wanted proof that you had stolen property on you. You can have that back. I just want the numbers on that, because you're going to pay for this. You've sinned. And we've monetized sin because we run God's business. We're in the business of God, you know. Guns, oils, and drugs. Guns, oil, and drugs. And govern or destroy. I mean, you know, it's an acronym. Take your pick. It means everything vile to them. Not to us. To us, God means, well, light and love, because that's what God is. God is love. God is light. God is the sun. Psalms 83:11, I think it is, or 84:11. But Psalms 83:11 says that God, the Lord God, is a sun. S-U-N. And Hebrews, in the book of Hebrews, it says that God is a blazing fire. God is light, God is love. I mean, we get the point? Yeah, I think so. Ecclesiastes 11:7 says it is good for the eye of man to behold the sun, to see the sun. Malachi 4:2 says the sun with healing, the sun of righteousness, S-U-N, with healing in its wings, shall return. And let's take a break, shall we? And where else would the power be? I mean, where else would the power be? It's with the people. It's not with the unconscious corporations. Of course, it's power to the people. The people have all the power. It's the control that they need. And the control comes with regaining power in honor. Because these people have not committed any dishonorable deed. It's intent to commit fraud, yeah, the system. But they are in honor when they ask for the name and the name is ceded. When the name is given, they have the negation of the divinity. You see, one negates their own divinity. The perfect reply would be to tell the person in the clown suit asking for the identity or the name to reply, I am God. And you will not be lying. And he will not have a name. And he will not have jurisdiction. They cannot. For they do not deal with God. They've stuck themselves, they've inserted themselves by means of their three trusts, Aeterni Regis, Pontifex Maximus, and Convocation of the 14th, 15th, 16th century. These three trusts, the Sestui KV trusts, they've inserted themselves in the place of God, and they're standing in for God, administering his affairs. You see, the Catholic Church's motto is Salus Ecclesia Extra Non Est. There's no salvation outside of this church, baby. So for all you Protestants, sorry to give you all the bad news, but you got to be Catholic. And for all you Catholics, sorry to give you all the bad news, but you're destined to be the all-time worst losers of the universe if you're associated with that organism. That is the most putrid and vile, pedophile, human slave-loving organization in the history of the universe, with its evil sorcerers, the cardinals of Rome, exposed millions of times. Millions of times. The exposure is there. Wow, is it there? And who's not looking? The sheeples. They ain't looking, because they think they are their bodies, you see, so they label their bodies. Yes, I'm Mr. John Doe. I am? Well, no, you're not. You're a bundle of light. We all are. Light is the underlying essence, the underlying creative force of the universe. It's electric. It's an electric universe. Everything produced is produced by electromagnetism. Everything. There's not a thing that ain't. Not a thing. Everything. Invisible and visible. Electricity is the grand tool of the universe, as Walter Russell put it. God only uses one tool. Uh, Sorry, I think I'm misquoting him. I'm going to pull him out. No, I think I have that in my car, that particular book. But I'm going to get back to that. He said that God uses only one thing, electricity, and two tools. One force, sorry, that's it. One force and two tools, electricity and magnetism. And, of course, he shows what God is. God is light. We're all light. We are light bodies. And the sooner we awaken to this, and the sooner we realize that the sun is the chief source of light, therefore our immediate savior, and our immediate representative or stand-in for the invisible, unknowable, prime source creator. He's the next stand-in in the scriptures. That's Michael, the archangel. It's Emmanuel. It's Jesus. Oh yeah, the one with the crown of thorns. And if you do any solar gazing, you'll notice that the crown of thorns are getting more and more luminous. I've been solar gazing for 2 years and I've never seen the sun the way I see it now. It has a purple, indigo, bluish, beautiful pink, soft halo on the horizon when it sets. You can see it. And I urge people to do solar gazing. Start with 10 seconds, add 10 seconds every time you see it. On the horizon, look at the sun above, say, I don't know, 5 degrees off the horizon to start off with. Until your eyes get accustomed to looking at the sun. Remember Ecclesiastes 7:3. It is good for man. It is good for the eyes to see the sun. And Malachi 4:2. The sun of righteousness with healing in its wings. The sun is healing. It is the prime source of healing in the universe. The suns, the electric suns. Everything is electric. Therefore, the human organism seeks to be revitalized by gaining some electricity. And where can it get it? You can't get it out of a box. You can't get it out of cornflakes, and out of stuff that's been processed and been put into a box. That's not light food. The body needs light food. Light food. It comes from herbs, solar gazing, and walking on the dirt for 45 minutes every day. Dirt walking. Dirt walking is the only way to eliminate sicknesses immediately. Walking on the dirt, 45 minutes every day. After 7 months, you ain't got no arthritis anymore. Your eyesight's restored. No more diabetes, people. Because wearing shoes is the greatest crime against the physical organism that we can ever perpetrate on ourselves. Because Mother Earth and dirt is the magnetic polarity of our electric bodies that seeks to pull off free radicals and toxins from the sole of our feet and to take them into her organism to heal us. And how many of us are walking on dirt every day? Not many. We've got our rubber soles. Oh yeah, let's protect ourselves and let us insulate ourselves from any kind of magnetic influence that the earth has for us, shall we? Oh, we don't want any of that. Oh no, that's no good coming up our soles of our feet. By the way, people who massage therapists who work on the feet, you know, those ones that massage every little nerve ending in the sole of the feet. When you walk on those little gritty stones and on the sand on the beach, what you're doing is you're massaging every point in the body. So your liver's getting a good massaging as you walk on those stones and dirt. Oh, your eyesight is starting to loosen up and you're starting to see better. Oh, and all those free radicals and those ions, those negative ions and all those, just those electrons that are toxic, you know, from all the rubbish that we've eaten, acidic foods, as opposed to alkaline foods, which are toxic and cancerous. Well, you can get rid of those if you want to. Just go for a walk. Simple as that. Or behold the sun. As Ecclesiastes 11:7 says, oh, it is good for the eyes to see the sun with healing in its wings, the sun of righteousness. People, true religion, true science is all about true science. And religion, if it's going to be worthy, must be based on truth. Truth is science. Science is knowledge. Therefore, why are we tolerating hocus-pocus religions that are all professing to be the true one, and they've all got a patented, franchised version of their corporate buffoon, historical, fictional Christ? One doesn't drink coffee, one doesn't drink tea, one won't let you have condoms, one won't let you masturbate, you can't dance if you're a Calvinist, and etc., etc., etc. And we tolerate our community. People, believe you me, we need to wake up and we need to call them out. These are murderous. Anyone who belongs to an organization that says that it is the supreme church or organization and all others shall be condemned to death and damnation is a fascist, racist, supremacist entity and a killing machine, because it kills other people psychologically. And when you kill someone psychologically by pronouncing them dead, because they don't believe what the shit that you believe, you're a killer. And that's what Christians are doing. They've been led to the slaughter like lambs, the little sheep, hoodwinked, pulled, the wool pulled over their eyes. Yeah, you know those little lambs? Because they're being fleeced, because they've got a fleece to fleece. And of course the churches are complicit in this Sestwi KV scam, this corporate Christian takeover of the earth, whereby the world shells corporations with Christian, and Zionist and extremist Islamist and Freemason land holdings. It's not just the Christian corporations, but the Christian ones are the blatant big holders of land, but the rest are also holding land. So let's take a break, shall we? Okay, section, and thank you for sharing with me today. I hope I've enlightened you on some of the words that have afflicted us for so many thousands of years. Jurisdiction being one of that, citizenship, what it means to have a birth certificate, and some of these amazing words like monopoly, monarchy, money, and monotheism, they turn up. It's a cabal. And it's a cabal that is had its day. The writing is on the wall, so to speak, as Babylon fell, and she fell in 1 hour. You see, ancient Babylon supposedly had walls that were impregnable. They could ride chariots abreast, 3 chariots side by side. They could ride on the top of this wall. That's how thick the wall was. It was impregnable. Straddled the Euphrates. You see, this ancient Babylon, pretty much where Baghdad is today. And the ships would come in to Babylon. She was the mother of merchandise. It was on the Fertile Crescent, and therefore everybody would bring their goods to Babylon. And of course, when the Medes and the Persians diverted the waters of the river and took the city, it fell. It was shocking, it was sudden, but it fell. And the writing was on the wall, you see. Belshazzar was drunk and he lifted up his glasses, his cups to his gods, and all of a sudden a hand appeared on the wall and said, "Mene, mene, tekel parson. Your kingdom has been weighed and found to be unworthy." And therefore he saw the fulfillment of that instantly. Now, these things are not literal, people, please. These are philosophically true accounts. They're not historically true. But the principles are always there. The cycles, they return. The end of the cycle always returns. The start is there, the end is there. And the middle, well, that's where we've been for 24,000 years. We're coming to the end of procession now. 21st of December 2012. Might be handy to get out of Babylon the Great, my people, if you do not want to share with her in her sins. You know, that shareholder docket that you have, that birthing docket that came from your mother's canal, the ship when you were birthed in a hospital ward, which is a military facility of Rome, which causes you to be a ward of the state for the rest of your life on the run. And we're going around with our IDs on us like real good little prisoners. And we show it to the men in blue in the costume suits every time they ask for it. "Can I see some ID?" "Yeah, sure, fraud. Thank you very much." "Oh, and I'm going to pay for it. 150, is that all for today, officer? Thank you very much." But when they herd you into their jails, the good old Vatican, the Inquisition, they do more than that. They hear the case. It's a hearing. It's an inquisition, people. And they summons people with a writ, a ritus, which comes from church rite, and they sit on the bench, which comes from bank, because it's a bank. The banksters have been sodomizing the rest for too long now. And it'll only be a short handful of years when we will look back and wonder how we ever allowed banksters to exist. I remember there was a man once, his name was Andrew Jackson. And he's got a tombstone somewhere there in the country of the United States of America. And on that tomb, the 7th President of the United States had written, "Yeah, but I wonder how many fools that come after me will do the same. Or will they be enslaved by the unconscious animals who appear to be human with their Cuban cigars and caviar and champagne and cocktail parties that they have while they think it's fun to rule the world and sodomize everybody else and fluoridate them and alter their DNA with aspartame, E. coli feces, etc. Well, these thugs have had their day. The age of Aquarius is upon us, and Aquarius, the motto is, "I know." Whereas the motto of the two fish, one was, "I doubt," and the other one was, "I believe." Doubting and believing are for fools. Knowing is for the wise man of Aquarius. Because when Aquarius, the baptizer, yeah, he's the little baptizer. We're in Aquarius right now, actually, the February part of Aquarius. But January is the month of Aquarius. January is Janus. Janus is John. John is the baptizer. And when we get baptized with that fixed air of Aquarius, we're going to know. And we are knowing. That's why we know now. We know who we are. And we've reclaimed our dominion, haven't we? Because if we don't, the prodigal son gets to stay down like Narcissus, in love with his own image, and to squander his father's wealth, and, perish with the prostitutes and the wine-bibbers. In other words, the entanglements of the flesh. But the good prodigal son returns and reclaims dominion, because dominion was ours from the beginning. It always has been. We were born free. We are free. For God is free. And anyone out there listening, in the world, who has a name and a title, well, as I said, the Catholic Church has already claimed title and property. Good luck. Lose the name, win the game, people. It's the only way. Get out of her. because you will share with her in her sins being a shareholder in that corporation. The corporation stands for the military-industrial complex and nothing more. It is a war-mongering machine, and your support of it, your bonds, your securities, are tacit approval of their sins and crimes and all the oil spills, etc., that they commit, their heinous crimes, and they depend on your bonds being securitized and being floating on the stock market so that they can continue to create money out of thin air and pay for all the killers that are raping the earth. To hand your birth certificates, did I say birth? Your death certificates back to the Vatican, who owns them, people, and get out of fraud. Stop being fraudulent, because you will always be in dishonor in their system. There's no way you can rock up in court and be in honor. You are in their ship. They own the waters. Get back on the land, people. Get back in heaven. You are God, having an experience on the land. You're not in the water. You're not in the air. The water is for fish. The air is for birds. Man has 2 feet on the land. Common law land. In other words, where the law of nature, the law of the land connects with the law of nature and physics, the law of the universe. People, please embrace law. Embrace true law. Be lawful. Know yourself. Do not have a name. Do not negate. You are God. That's who you are. They don't ask you who you are. They ask you, what is your name? Because they don't want to know who you are, that you are God. They want to hear whether you are a coward enough to deny your own divinity and give yourself a name, Mr. So-and-so. Thank you. Contract. You're in. Here's what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to give you a benefit. This one costs $1,000. If you don't have the cash, we can store you in the warehouse. We can take custody because we are the custodians by default. You didn't rebut it, therefore you are a slave on the run. So people, please know who you are. Reclaim dominion. Now's the time. The time is now. Goliath is falling. David has reclaimed dominion and returned. And David always wins. Goliath always loses. So chin up. Rejoice, for the time is near when we shall see the effects of living consciously and conscientiously and lawfully and true to our word and in honor. There's only one way to be in honor, and that is to be who you are, God. For if you are anything other than the I am, then you have taken the name of your God in dishonor. Thank you, and see you same time next week.